Welcome to Console Christians, where we are discovering the biblical truths in today's video games. I'm Conrad, and the game that we are looking at today is Little Nightmares. This is a platformer where you do a lot of running and jumping. You're a little girl in a yellow raincoat named Six, who is on this it's like a ship, maybe like a factory, a floating factory at the sea, more like it. It's called the Maw. And you are on the run from a whole bunch of different people that want to get you. So one of these people that want to get you are these incredibly obese people, and I'm looking at a clip here where you see that they have these plates and plates of food, and even though they have like incredible amounts of food in front of them, they see Six, and what they have in front of them is not enough. They gotta have Six as well, and they can't even walk. They're so huge. So there's a Bible verse about this. It's in John chapter 4, verse 6. It says, Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." He told her, "Go, call your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, "You are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is you have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true." So we see here this woman actually had a problem. She was like addicted to relationships almost. She had five husbands, and got to the point where she realized that her relationships weren't going to last. So what's the point in even getting married? Just let me have a relationship with someone, and I'll just soon move on to the next one. And this is something you can apply to, like, some people are addicted to relationships. It might be anything else you can choose. If you look, you see that the amount of debt that there is in the United States, they recorded this in 2008, was almost $1 trillion. That's the credit card debt of like the entire country. And that's certainly a problem, if you can see that. So what's happening is we just have all these wants for things we see, and we just can't say no to our desires and just say, well, we have to have this, and then we just go and buy it. Even if we don't have the money to buy it, we'll go and borrow $1 trillion to buy these things that we see. And certainly what Jesus is saying that we actually want, it's not the things we see, it is a relationship with God. Jesus is talking about this living water that he has, which is, it's metaphorical. It's not real water. It's spiritual. It's a spiritual relationship with God. And once you have that, then you don't need anything else. You don't have to go back to the well each time to get your thirst quenched. You'll never be thirsty if you get the spiritual water that Jesus has. Let's move on to another clip. There's 5 levels in the game, and in each level, you come to a point where you get hungry, and you got to eat something. You see, in the first level, you get tossed a loaf of bread by someone, and you eat that. You see this piece of meat in a cage, but it's like rats have been eating it. But you're hungry, so you got to eat something. So you eat the meat. Although, because of that, it was all a trap. You get trapped in this cage. And the next level, you see that there's a rat in a trap, and you actually eat the rat. It's getting a little bit more disgusting here. Then the next level, which I find the most disturbing, is there's a gnome. And as you've been going through the game, once you see a gnome, they run away. But being able to get close to them and give them hugs. And so it's gotten to the point here where a gnome sees that you're hungry and offers you a sausage. And what do? You eat the gnome instead. That apparently is not the worst. As you go on to the final level, there's this woman who's been running the mob, and you eventually defeat her, but you get hungry again at that point, and you take a bite out of the woman's neck, and you absorb her magical power. And so I guess you've been trying to defeat this woman the whole time, like you've been the hero, but now with the power that you have stolen from the woman, you have become the villain. And this is a lot like the story of the book of Judges. It starts off with the Israelites moving into the Promised Land, and they're fighting the Canaanites. And by the end of the book, what happens is they become just like the Canaanites. Just like how Six was the hero and was fighting against this woman, and then she eventually takes her place. This is what happens to the Israelites. They were fighting against the Canaanites, and they eventually just become just like the Canaanites. How can the people of God, who are supposed to be an example to everyone else, become exactly like everyone else? There's a series of judges who are actually the leaders of God's people, and they start out pretty good, move on to okay, then bad, and then worse. And the first few judges are, as you see, pretty good. There's nothing really bad you can say about them. But then you move on, and you have Gideon, who defeated the oppressors of Israel. But then after that, he had his people worshiping an idol. And then we go on to Jephthah, who he delivered the Israelites from their oppressors as well. But then he said, well, I'm going to make a vow to sacrifice the first thing I see when I come back from my victory. And the first thing he sees is his daughter. And he really didn't need to make a vow in the first place. But then when he saw that it's his daughter that he had to sacrifice, I wonder if he really needed to keep his vow and sacrifice his daughter. And so there we just see how things are getting more and more disturbing. Just how things got more and more disturbing in the game when we saw Six get hungry. And eventually we get to the final judge where this is Samson, and he just killed people for the most petty reason. He was pretty much led by his lust, and that dictated a lot of what he did. And it's certainly not someone you think of when you think of one of God's leaders. And this is the story of Judges. How Israel started off as God's people. I guess they were still God's people at the end of the book, but to look at their actions, you would not know the difference between Israel and anyone else. So the Israelites are just the same as the Canaanites, that they're who are like supposedly the villains. The Israelites become just like the villains. And this is something that we need to watch out for. If you're a Christian, then you need to not think that you are like you should be different from other people who are not Christians. You should have higher moral standards and so on. But it's so easy to just blend in with everyone else that's around you and not be different. So please come to the church service that we are having every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern on the Milestone Church's YouTube channel. And I'll see you next time on Console Christians.